on air? Are we on?
Okay.
Okay. No, on air doesn't show. Welcome everybody to the July meeting of the Commission on Aging. Well, hope everybody's enjoying the nice weather. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and first agenda item is the approval of the draft minutes of our June 13th meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, do I hear a motion for approval?
Move to approve as submitted. Second.
Okay. I don't know who you gave credit for, but that's fine.
Who approved?
Barb?
And then, okay, Donna
Okay.
and then Barb, okay. Thank you.
Okay, you can do the next one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the draft minutes are approved. And we have the special meeting on transportation that we had, and draft minutes for that. Are there any additions or corrections to those? If not, do I hear a motion of approval? Motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so both sets of minutes have been approved. There are no public appearances right now, so we will proceed to the senior center budget on our agenda.
All right.
Jill, you would like to share with us?
Okay, so the directive we were given this year for the budget was no new staffing, and if you have new initiatives that cost money, you have to find revenue, which isn't extremely unusual. The no new staffing is a little unusual. So what you have in front of you is just kind of the basic boilerplate that all of us have to go through to do a budget. Many departments have similar line items that we have to put through. Basically, our operating is around 30,000. Some other things that bring it up a little bit is we have to put in independent contractor fees, which are about 13,000 that we would pay out to have people offer classes, but we are mandated to make 20% off of those, so we cover the cost of those fees. And the same with our, what you don't see in here, staffing. I don't get personnel information. The finance director does all of that. So anyway, so our operating is pretty minimal. We were lucky to update or to increase our funding for programming this past year to 2,500. But otherwise, it's very boilerplate. I mean, I have very little to work with. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or you want me to go through line by line. It's not very exciting.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So, no new staffing, does that mean that we lose our kitchen assistant?
Probably. It's a very unique year with this referendum. And so if indeed the referendum went through, we would put forward a whole different budget. So at the back of the page, I did put a screenshot of the staffing that was supposed to be included in these following years. So we're supposed to give like a 5-year lookout. So in 2024, I had asked for that nutrition site coordinator and an activity assistant, part-time, a bilingual, and neither got put in the budget. In 2025, I've asked for a part-time bilingual case manager, and then in 2026, I asked that if we had an activity assistant, that would be increased to full-time. So these will still be put forward as a wish list. We are still able to put these in, but we can't add anything for 2025. Now, if the referendum passed, we might be looking at a different situation, but that's the directive we've been given. So I will continue to put these in, and then we can talk about what transportation would look like if we added LTE drivers.
So the referendum would be in November.
Correct.
by then the budget for 2025 would have been put to bed?
No, they'll redo it.
They'll redo it.
They'll redo it. So I think finance is now there are some set proposed positions in that referendum. They don't include any of these. But if the referendum did pass, that might free up other city money to put forward some other positions. But there's no guarantees.
When is the final budget approved?
Well, I mean, generally, it's kind of mid-November.
Okay.
Generally anyway, and so it would be a quick turnaround if that referendum is approved to look at the budgets again. So finance is putting together a second whole budget, but I still am not convinced that it will include any of our positions, and I can't be. I'm not going to bank on that.
Do you have any idea of overall how many staff positions have been asked for?
Last year, there was 80. But that's including, and reasonably so, like a handful of firefighters, a handful of police officers, so there was a lot of staffing requested last year. And I think they had approved maybe 3 or 4 different positions for this year, 2024. So it's just kind of a strange year. I mean, I've been through a lot of budget cycles. This one feels a little different. I mean, obviously, we've never gone to referendum, so that says something about, the needs of the city. And I do feel that, the city has grown and we're playing catch up now.
Yeah.
So with the part-time help in the kitchen now, Mandy Miller has been allowed to do some other things, correct?
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, and the referendum doesn't happen, what does life look like for
Well,
meal
yeah, I mean,
delivery?
and that was what, when I went to council, that's what they said, you're taking a risk here because we're not committing to pay for this. And I said, it's a risk that we'll take. I mean, why not? At the very least, the Friends were generous enough to pay for Chris. If we look through that whole year, she didn't start until March, I think. And so, if the Friends were willing to take her through March, we're just gonna have to just figure it out like we did before.
Even if the referendum is passed.
Even if the referendum is passed, there's no guarantee that this will get in the budget. So I can't be banking on that. And, we had a staff meeting yesterday and, Chris is aware of where we're at. And again, I wouldn't do it any different. I mean, if we had it's been great to have Chris in the kitchen and just, dealing with the day-to-day stuff. I have asked Mandy to give me a list of initiatives that she has been working on and that we need to be working on, and I haven't read it yet because I think most of you know my dad passed, and so I had dealt with him the last week of June, and then I took the first week of July off. So this week has just been hit the ground running, and she sent me a long email, and I haven't, because I want to take some time to really look at that, because that was the intent of that position.
Yeah, that's
That'd be important to know.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
What has she started?
Correct.
And what's gonna end?
And what's gonna end, and right, yeah, so there's a lot to do, but, so my personnel budget is due Tuesday, so that's easy, because I can't do anything different. The rest of the budget is due the following week, and so there's a lot I need to look at, for initiatives, what we're gonna roll out. They wanna know, do you have any new initiatives, and then how do you pay for them? So I always have new initiatives, but I'll also be sharing some of the initiatives that, we've been doing all along, with the generosity of the Friends and volunteer time and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of times what doesn't come up in budget discussions is the revenues that are generated. And I know for us, with the Friends, every year it averages between $8,000 to $10,000 that you guys put forward between special needs, some program expenses, the Veterans Day things, supplies, some transportation stuff. So it ends up to be quite a bit. But all of those things are what make it kind of nice down there, the flowers and, you know, they're paying for the lunch tickets and that kind of stuff. So we're able to do that because of the Friends. This year we'll generate about 140,000, not generate, it's our county contract for case management nutrition. So we do bring that in, and I do a lot of advocacy around trying to increase our funding for case management and nutrition at the county level. We're on target this year. Last year we brought in $40,000 in program fees. We're probably gonna be closer to 43,000 this year. This year we've already brought in $4,000 just in newsletter ads. So Dave deals with that. So, you know, we do try to bring in some money. Obviously, our biggest expense is personnel, just like any other department in the city.
So when you brought Chris in, she did understand that this was a
Yes.
limited term, correct?
She did, yeah.
Okay,
She
and then
did.
while she's here, and piggybacking on this question about Mandy,
Yeah.
are you guys taking a look at Mandy's job responsibilities? Because things change over time.
Correct.
Are there things that we can take out of it in the event that you won't have Chris? What are the most critical things that she
Right.
should be focusing on
I mean,
to
she does.
kind of alleviate some of that?
And you know, and you know, as you look at a staff, and again, you know, I'm looking at everybody's job descriptions, and you know, there's pluses and minuses of us being here a long time, and we have a lot of historical knowledge, and we know and we do things well, but also too, when you change positions, you update job descriptions and you relook at what everybody should be doing, and when you don't, you just kind of add stuff on. And so, you know, Mandy obviously has taken over a lot of marketing. She helps with a lot of, you know, special events. I mean, it's hard to have black and white lines between what we do down there because, you know, sometimes I need the social workers and Susie to help with programming. You know, for game day, we're all out there. There's just things that we all do, things that I'm doing that, you know.
That's the danger. You know, you start, people leave, the other job descriptions get added to, and suddenly that person leaves, and how do you replace that person with all of the
Right, I mean, Mandy's, you know, she does the database, like, you know, the database is a big deal, and it's something that, you know, it just evolved, that she uses it more for nutrition and how it ties into the county reports, and so she works with a consultant, so, you know, there's a handful of hours that just go into that.
No, and I understand that, but I'm saying, and there are some things that are absolutely critical in her job.
Absolutely.
And I do understand from the HR background, I do understand you have to pull them in and do different things, but I'm saying, given the somewhat of a crisis that when we may end up in.
I don't disagree.
What's the, I mean, and I'm not looking for black and white,
No,
but we need to really take a look and say, okay, this is where we really need Mandy to focus on. Right. It's so, you know.
It's too, and that's all of us too, and which has led to a lot of burnout.
No, and I agree with that, but I mean, I'm just focusing right now on the Chris and Mandy situation.
Well, and I think because I asked her to do a time sort of analysis, you know, how is she spending her time, which was a great suggestion from Janice.
Is Chris able to identify any things that could change the way the kitchen is handled? And maybe come up with some efficiencies or simplifications that and document what that is, so that perhaps tricky with volunteers, but you could have some parts of it perhaps done by a volunteer if it were well documented and a routine established.
Yeah, so which indeed, I mean, that's a good point, because then that will alleviate perhaps, you know, Mandy in the event that things do change.
Right, I mean, we've explored before, like, the idea of a lead volunteer in the kitchen, you know what I mean? So when the questions are, oh, do I put this in this container, or this container, or, you know, so-and-so didn't show up. And so that's a possibility. But again, you know, you rely on volunteers to take up responsibility, and we have some that just step up and do that. And I mean, you know, you guys on Tuesdays are pretty self-sufficient, and we've always been that way because Mandy has juggled 2 jobs. When you go to other focal points, again, they're all full-time, and they all spend time in the kitchen, so you don't need that lead volunteer. But we found early on, we do have to train our volunteers to be a little bit more capable so we can free up some time to do other things. So anyway, I do have a long document that she sent me on Monday that I just haven't looked at, but I don't disagree. We have to be prepared. Like, what are we gonna do when this position goes away?
Have you, I know we've talked before about counting the number of people that come through.
Right. I talked to IT, I mean, we can, Dave and I sit and, we can do a really good estimate of who comes through the doors. I mean, based on programs, based on the coffee table in the morning, and based on, all kind of ins and outs with durable medical equipment. But I just talked to IT about putting something in the budget to have a door counter. Because there's a lot of traffic that we don't gather the information on, just walk-ins, and that's kind of helpful. And then, even Susie, the city, we have to track the phone calls kind of on our own. They don't have a way that we can say, how many calls are coming into 290? Because there's a lot of phone calls that come in, that keep her busy too. And that then gives us a really good snapshot. Am I just busy in my head? Or, now I have these numbers to back it up. This is how many people are walking through the doors. And, with every person walking through the doors, they usually need help.
Yeah.
So.
Because certainly you have many more people than you did a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it, but again, it's, we have the programs that we have the registrations for, and then we have the programs that we don't. And Janice's Lunch and Learn, and we've talked about gathering those names. It's easy if most of them, and I'd say 80%, 90% come for lunch, so we have their information. But then we talked about, you don't want to go in and be like, I need your name, your address. If they just want to come for a program, you just walk that fine line of being so intrusive about wanting all their information. So then we're like, well, the door counter helps, because then we see that traffic. And then you can say, well, we've got 5 meal drivers that are in and out twice. So, okay, take that little number off or something like that. So just a better way to track all this data.
Is Susie full-time?
Susie's full-time. Yeah. So her main duties really, it's, customer service, answering the phone. She does the RSVP medical rides. She pays the bills, like the credit card bills go to her for all staff except for Dave and Mandy do their own, but she does all my bill paying. She does the office supplies. She seems like there's one other thing that kind of takes up a big chunk of her time. Oh, she deals with all the paying of the instructors. She sends out the program registration stuff.
So that certainly needs to be a full-time position.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We volunteer to
Oh yeah,
plug in empty days
Yeah,
when
yeah.
she's not there.
Yeah, so
But
Vaughn
there's
sits
not
at the front desk.
always, I think she's got 15 volunteers. There's
No,
a
I
number of
think
us?
About 6 that
Okay,
were
maybe I'm
just
thinking
in
about the
there,
list.
yeah.
So we all try to take a couple days, but
A month, yeah,
you know,
because
we're volunteering.
we all have one work from home day, and so now we have volunteer greeters, receptionists. Kathy's one, Jim's wife, Vaughn's is one, and then we have about 4 more. So, because it's good to have a face up there. But anyway, so back to the budget. I got a lot to do before we turn that in next week, and a lot of things to prepare for if we don't get more staff.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What's been your history of requesting staff?
3 years.
In terms of turn down, when's the last time you've hired somebody?
I mean, for real staff, it was Susie. And that took almost 3 years, and it started at part-time. And then we moved it up to full-time. So she's been here 7. Just started her 7th year. Prior to that, sorry, go ahead.
And then, since Susie, have you requested other positions and they've been turned down or not?
I've requested them and turned down, but then eventually got them. So it was about a 3 year. So case management. That got approved right away. So that's when we added a 20-hour case manager because we shared it with the police. So you had 2 departments advocating for that.
Sarah?
Yeah, that was Sarah. But prior to that, it was Susie, and then prior to that, Janice. We haven't added any other staff. The positions have been steady.
Didn't you request Chris's position.
Right,
And that
but it
was
was-
turned down.
It was turned down,
Okay, so that's the most recent one.
correct, right, yeah. And I was trying to think if I asked for it in 2023 as well. I don't think so. I may have, I don't know. But anyway, I haven't asked for a lot of positions over the years. Because when I started, I had, we had the assistant director position. We had probably 1.5 case managers, so we've increased that a little bit. We had a 10-hour volunteer coordinator and, a 20-hour nutrition site manager. But then when Mandy came on board, we merged that into a full-time position, but no hours have been added, and she's been here probably 18, so. I mean, the demand has been met by volunteers, and those are initiatives that, I'll share with the mayor that we do a good job, using volunteers that help make us a better program. So.
Well, when you consider the number of people you served 15 years ago.
Yeah.
To what you're serving now with
Yeah.
the same staff.
What's the number?
Well, that's.
Oh, you're just saying, okay.
Yeah.
That I think they're.
Well, and we have the census data that it's only gonna grow, so I still wanna lay out a plan for the next 5 years, And again, this is gonna coincide with the city's strategic plan, because, again, the city also has to come back and say, that's not a direction we wanna go, or we don't, you're gonna have to cap it. We're not, give me some guidelines, or I just keep on doing more. But I also, get to that point where it's like, this is a lot, and I can't keep doing more. So anyway, I'm hoping that, our vision, what we want to see happen in the next 5 years, where we want to branch out, if it's transportation and more programming, that I got to have a sustainable plan to support that, because it's not feasible, to think of, even if it's volunteers. I'll talk about the ambassador program we're working on, but just sort of outside the realm of city staff, because that's not always going to be available to add more staff.
Have you had discussions with our council rep about the significance of Chris's?
Well, no, I need to sit down with Donald. I was hoping he'd be here today, that we could, he would hear some of this, and then I can sit down with him as well.
Who are you, I'm sorry, who were you referring to?
Donald.
No, Chris.
The part-time kitchen help that we have.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
They are swamped.
Mm-hmm, it's busy in there.
And so I know, and sorry I was late, I was at a doctor's appointment, but I left. Because he still wasn't ready. I gotta go. But has there, I know you said once there was, 5 or 6 years ago, there was something on the budget long-term about the kitchen. So one of the things that kind of keeps them scurrying in that kitchen is so tight, and I think all of you guys have probably been in that kitchen. It's pretty tight when they're all there trying to do the meals, and that machine that we have to use by law.
Yeah, so they did put some, the CIP budget is so different, it's those one-time big projects, so they did keep that kitchen remodel, but they pushed it out to 2027, which, that's okay. I still want to, there's a lot to look at as we move forward again, so at least that there's a placeholder for that.
I just wanted that somewhere in the middle, that it's still on there for 2027.
Yeah. So anyway, the budget's not super complicated when I look at operating. It's just more about programming. But otherwise, things are pretty set, maintenance, contracts, that kind of stuff, postage, marketing. I'd love to know, yeah. So anyway.
Do we have any aggregate population data for the last, as we look at demographically how things have changed for the area that we serve?
The real data comes from the census. Yeah.
It's dated.
I have data from the data we collected, but we changed sort of how we're collecting data, and to me, the way we collect data is our weakest area, because we need a different database for case management, nutrition, We have a different database for programs. We don't have, a lot of senior centers have the swipe system. So every time you walk in the door, you swipe a card and say where you're gonna be. Right, and what program, but because we have the two entrances, and we hear from other centers, it's only as good as its users, you know, somebody's gonna walk in and not. So then I'm relying on data that I don't feel is, you know, that accurate.
My question really is about what is the aggregate demographic of our population, not our use.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is a
that, I mean,
challenge.
that we have.
But as police and fire reference how many per capita, or
Right.
positions they have per capita,
Yeah.
it lays out a pretty compelling picture for
Yeah.
people. If we had comparable, it just seems that the demographic that the senior center serves is growing perhaps at a larger rate than the total population, but I don't know that. I just look at the number of senior focused living complexes that are in development, so that may bias my perception. I truly don't know how many people.
Well, we
over
can
50.
see, I mean, I shared that census data, and that's why I queried out 50 to 60, because that's our next, you know, that's what's coming up the pike.
Yeah.
And so I can share that data again.
But to your point, I think there is some bias behind that, because yeah, we are having a lot of senior, you know, complexes, but
Yeah.
they also have all their own activities and stuff. It's not that they're necessarily coming here. So that's something that we really have to take into consideration as well.
Well, and that is hard with any market research, and I think kind of plays to Paul's background. Hard to know who you're not serving because you're not serving. I mean, they're not a part of,
Right.
they don't come here, and why don't they come here?
Right.
Well,
And
I
that's
have-
Because they have other
I have a friend
activities
that
or-
just moved into the one right behind Target, right? And I'm trying to get, you know, come on over, blah, blah, blah. She was like, I really don't need to. We have everything
Yeah,
here, and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I mean, she started listening to all these things, and
Well, they
I'm
have
thinking,
their
oh,
own,
heck, she
They
can
got their
out the
own
building.
senior center over there.
well, they have a beautiful.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, and so
Oh,
I
yeah.
get it, you know,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Right, so the ones that are, you know, Quarry Ridge, they call it luxury house, you know,
Yeah.
those, Quarry Ridge, I think the one in Terravessa, you know, I don't feel like we're gonna draw a ton of folks, that's gonna be probably on a higher end. The affordable apartments, they don't really have activity directors in them, like Limerick and the High Line. They do some stuff, but there also is the nature of people in apartments. I mean, Chapel Valley and McKee have been here for 1,000,000 years, and you know, we don't get a large population from those two apartments. And so it is to be considered, and I think that, you know, we can kind of shift our focus, which we've talked about forever, is how do we reach the people that don't know we're here?
So
And
don't
after
laugh.
we reach them,
I
will
had
they
an
come?
idea, actually last night, don't go there, you know how my brain works.
Yeah,
Coming from a school point of view, you go to those particular buildings where we don't quite know who is coming or don't have a lot of activity like Limerick, and see if we can set up a small card table in the lobby and have one of us volunteers man it, so it's not taking hours from the center, and give information as people walk by.
well, that's
That's one way to
exactly
do
our
it.
ambassador program that we're looking
Okay.
at, so, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Because
Katie is there.
Budget.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
okay,
Reminder.
so anyway,
That's a reminder.
that's kind of what I, you know, it's not too in-depth, it's not super complicated. Happy to take any questions,
Do you
but
think
again,
anything's at risk here? Because the things that did increase seem to be well documented. So, I mean, are you
Right,
concerned that
right.
anything is not gonna be approved?
no.
Yeah.
No,
Everything else seems to be
it's just,
status quo.
it's kind of
Yeah.
boilerplate every year. Yeah, it's just the staffing.
And is that pretty much intentionally, are you trying just to keep it kind of status quo, so not to?
Well, you know, you know, they probably don't realize that I'm pretty I'm very cognizant of taxpayer money, and I you know, and I know, but sometimes I should ask for more, and I lean on the friends a lot, but I think it's a nice relationship. I mean, you know, there was years that we didn't use the friends for a lot of program stuff. In fact, the friends paid more for chairs, they paid for the refrigerator, they paid for, and I was like, wait a minute, this is not an appropriate situation. I can lean on them for more other things. And in the past, because I've been here, well, I've had council come down on me saying, why are we paying for that? Like fluffy stuff, you know what I mean? Like birthday party stuff. And I think that stuck with me, like, okay, well, maybe taxpayers don't want to pay for a birthday cake every month for, you know, our participants. And so we kind of pulled back and then sort of shifted to, you know, asking the Friends to pay for a lot of stuff, or subsidize a lot of programs. So should I ask for more?
Should you ask for a bus?
Well, we'll talk about that next.
That wouldn't go in the budget at all.
Well, that's what I gotta talk about next.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Maybe this is a good segue to the Friends.
Yeah.
You know, you just talk about the Friends, maybe we should have Jerry give his report.
I'm good, unless you have questions about the
Do you need us to
budget.
approve the budget or anything?
You know, I never really have in the past. It's more a discussion. I mean, if there was serious issues, you could let me know, or you're like, I'm not gonna let you do that. I want you to add $6,000 more to programs. I can, you know.
And just a thought, as you mentioned that you are very cautious or frugal with your budget, as we look forward and we're going to look at other approaches to meeting needs, are there any ways to embed a piece of that? It's never going to be a person, but are there any needs in the kitchen to make it more doable for volunteers? Ways to increase any of the operational pieces to make it more viable for volunteers or a second line.
That's a good, yeah.
Speaking of which, is our volunteer base growing yet?
Yes and no. I mean, we get to, this week, we lost one in the kitchen, so it ebbs and flows, but it you know, we have a lot of volunteers doing, it's not just the kitchen volunteers, we have a lot of volunteers doing a lot of different things. But I think we can do more. I mean, we're both, you know, Mandy too, proponents of volunteering builds community, you know, when you feel like you're making a difference in your own community. So I think we can lean in more on volunteers, but using them at different levels now, not just programs, but outreach and fundraising and that kind of stuff, which we haven't really done in the past.
Okay, there's nothing else, Jerry?
Okay, nothing quite so dramatic as the budget and those issues, but we're continuing on our various activities. There will be a travel show this afternoon at 1 o'clock over in the Senior Center. It's being presented by Colette, which is a company that I don't think we've been trying to work with them a bit so far, but I think this is their first open travel program that they're putting on. And so that'll be over in the Senior Center this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Otherwise, we're still preparing for our brat lunch on August 16th from 11:30 to 1:30, I believe. And other than that, our nominations committee has developed a new members packet like this, and they are available in the office at the Senior Center in our little cubby hole there. Gives information about the Friends of the Senior Center and how to apply to become a member of that. So if anybody's interested, either I could give you this copy now, or you can get one.
Nice marketing.
Gotta get that plug in there.
You did that well.
How many do you need this year?
That would be 3, I believe. So other than that, you know, business as usual.
On your travel sessions, what's the attendance like?
For the meetings, well, this is we've had them again by Zoom, you know, over the last few years, such that there's been kind of a waning interest because the presenters for Mayflower in particular were typically on a Zoom call with us, and we'd have maybe 20 people, but we're looking forward to something on the order of 30 people today.
Okay.
And we'd like to see the numbers build up for the Mayflower events. Also, they said they will go with having a representative in-house instead of just on the internet somewhere.
And then on your trips, your actual trips, what's the numbers like?
Oh, the trips, generally, I think they have about 20 to 30 people on each trip. Of those people who have registered through the senior center, average 4 to 12.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
senior
one of them
center.
you had 25, didn't you? For the river,
The Danube.
the Danube, wasn't there 25, 24, 25, something like that?
Were there that many from the senior center?
I thought so, but
Could be, I don't know, but generally the numbers are less than that. But that was a very popular tour.
right. Is it not true that the money that the senior center Friends gets from the trips is the biggest money-making thing for the Friends?
Yes, definitely.
So the trips is really a big issue.
Yeah, so that's why it really helps for anybody interested in registering for a trip, either through Mayflower or Colette, mention the senior center and the Friends of the Senior Center, so that way we can get our commission on that.
And do we get a discount?
I don't think, no, we don't get a discount. That's been pursued, but the
You're not happy
answer
with
is no.
that? Yeah, I'm sure.
So demographics, is that, what's that like? Do you have any idea of the folks that go actually?
Generally, they're older people, but on the other hand, sometimes they bring a younger relative or a friend with them. And younger people, you don't have to be a senior citizen in order to say, I heard about you through the Friends of the Fitchburg Senior Center. It could be a 30-year-old couple or something like that, heard about it through us, and then we get credit for their participation.
I just said a friend of mine was here with me, younger, and was looking at that Michigan tour. And I said, those are just 55 and up.
Oh.
I didn't know,
Right,
right?
make
Get
money
hold of it,
Right.
on the phone.
What'd you say? I think it's full, because I was contemplating it for me. I think the Michigan one is full.
They'll have another one next year because
They
it's,
do it every year.
yeah, that
Okay.
one's a very popular tour, and
Yes.
we got a fair number of people going on
This
that.
will be the third time next year, won't it?
Gee, it seems like it's been more than that.
That's great opportunities, but in diversity within the folks that go, is there any?
Not for those prices. I mean,
I really don't know, I haven't
Don't
been
know.
on any of these tours.
Or even in your sessions like today, would you say most of the time it's not? I'm just curious as to,
I bet.
Limited,
We're
shall we
reaching,
say, charitably limited
okay.
participation in
Okay.
diversity.
Interesting, I'm just curious, and
Yeah.
people, maybe we need to reach out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks that actually, are interested in traveling, stuff like that, so I'm just curious, thank you.
and maybe look at what they're offering too.
Yeah,
Sure,
I
yeah.
know Colette goes down to, does a Freedom Ride, down south. And it ends at, Mobile, Alabama with a museum, World War II museum. But that may also pull in a more diverse group of people when you offer something that's a little different besides. I mean, Europe was always fun, don't get me wrong, but that's a big chunk of money where people may be able to afford the bus ride.
Well, I think with the, the nomination, committee is to try to get people of color on the Friends board. We've tried before, we've had, we've asked, but I think a bigger push now that we have more connections within the Hispanic and Black communities to see, because that will drive it. Then somebody on the board that is of color says, wait a minute, that's a great trip. I didn't know about that, I'm not thinking that way. So
But
I think
came into
that's.
your office, and that's how I got involved at this level.
You did, I agree. There's some give and take, I think that you have to be interested, right.
Well, yesterday at the women's group, Leslie mentioned the nominations and mentioned that one of the positions would be to fill a spot on the travel committee. So there you
Oh,
go.
that's
So-
cool.
Right,
So there you go.
yeah.
That's nice, a nice idea.
Right.
By the way, if you don't want to wait, there are a bunch of flyers, particularly from Mayflower in the hallway, pretty much right across from where the coffee pot is.
So next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Might even be some for later this year, but.
Well, it's like,
yeah.
okay.
And sometimes just getting those, in the right spots in people's hands, not necessarily, I agree with you, if somebody's on the board, that helps, but there's other different ways of getting that information out.
Good.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Okay, director's report.
I was deciding if I just wanted to do a quick update and then talk about transportation or the other way around, because I wanted to talk about that particular thing in the ambassador program. Because I think that that's what's it's gonna help us in a lot of ways. It's hopefully bring in some diversity that will represent us in different areas. I know that Jesus Rodriguez, who is on the multicultural work group going through the inclusion toolkit, he and I went to, it was a car seat clinic at the fire station up the road, and it was put on by UW Health and another Hispanic organization. It was very geared towards Hispanic folks. So Jesus went with me, and it was really great because he went and talked to everybody, and they came, it was mostly younger people, obviously it was, but they have parents or grandparents, and he gave out a lot of information in Spanish, and St. Joe's Church, which has a large Hispanic population, they were serving food, and so he went and talked to them and the ladies and gave them information, and so it's really helpful to have sometimes an older adult versus just a staff person on board to help promote programs like, oh, you go there, not me, you go there, Janice, I know you do a good job, and everybody does about promoting, but we don't have enough people of color representing us, I think, and so we want to build this ambassador program. So on the multicultural committee, we're going to look at putting together sort of a training kit, so as we bring people on board, they're educated about what we do. We'll give them a Fitchburg shirt. We're going to do an ambassador board downstairs, hopefully with pictures of our ambassador, and just look at opportunities for folks to go out and spread the good word. And it's not just staff all the time. Even the apartments. I mean, the social workers are at the apartments once a month. They're on a calendar, but we could be there more. If somebody could be there more, if it works out. And so I think that will help spread the word in different areas throughout our community. One of the social workers are going to these, but they have the Munch Mobiles, which a long time ago this was started with the River Food Pantry, and it's a big, beautiful truck, and it serves free lunches, and it has fresh fruit and sandwiches, and it will give you can get produce. Well, they're parking at the apartments, they're at the park right across from the High Line, and more older adults are coming out. It used to be for kids because there wasn't lunch during summer. They weren't at school, but now it's serving a broader population. So they're at New Fountains, they're at the Fairways, they're at Southdale. So there's some outreach opportunities that we can do and other people can do to try to just make sure people have the information, the people that we don't know, that we can reach out those ways. So anyway, trying to develop a better outreach plan. Yeah, you can have one of those. So, yeah.
Also, I mean, and again, we've talked about the ambassador program, quite a while ago. However, every last one of us sitting around this table are ambassadors.
Right. Well, right.
I'm sure we all do, speak highly and talk about the senior center at all times, and that should be an ongoing, thing, yeah.
Well, and so we talked about that. My staff has been asking for city shirts for a long time. And initially we were supposed to pay for our own, but I've taken it out of contribution. Right, pay for your own shirt.
Yeah, it's fluffy.
But I got these, and so I want to get one for each of you. And so there's different styles. There's just, V-neck t-shirts for women, or just plain t-shirts, or there's polos. And I sized Jim up So this is a woman's polo.
For a short woman?
No, they're pretty. And so anyway, I want you guys afterwards to take a peek at these and tell me what you would like. A polo or a t-shirt, and you can decide on a color. And then as you are out and about delivering meals out at different places, you can wear these too. Because I think that, all of us here, you all included, we can do more ambassador outreach just as commission members too. So we've got this, and the staff all have shirts now. And then these goodie bags, we give stuff away, but finally got a bag. So it has our logo on it and our phone number. And then within this bag is this Janice and I's program to give out free coupons for lunch. So as we meet new people, the social workers or whomever even comes in the door, Susie, whoever we're touring, we give those out. And then the Friends makes a donation to the lunch program on behalf of, that first initial invite.
So is that an open-ended thing then?
I didn't tell you yet, did I?
He says, well, surprise,
That could be open-ended, yeah. I mean, we can say to the person, you can give a donation, because we can't charge for the meal program. We can say you can give a donation. We'll have pens in there. Susie's working on getting gift certificates, maybe from area businesses like we could do Culver's, or we can do, she's reaching out to McDonald's and to Dairy Queen, because those are all pretty walkable and they're right here in Fitchburg. So yeah.
I am so happy to see that. When I first, last year, I said to Jim, we need to get the ink pens so when people come, give them something with our logo on the book. Jess, you're trying to make me break the bank. I can't do stuff like that.
Why didn't we get a sponsor for the printing of the bags? Because on the back they could have said,
Oh, you're right. I don't
volunteer, donated by Hy-Vee or Pick and Save. What else is open? It just, a list of business. You know how they have beer glasses that list all the teams?
Yep.
We could have all the business and they can pay for the printing.
You're right.
As opposed to us paying for it.
You're on that.
I'm on what?
Yeah, give me some sponsors for the bags.
Okay, we'll talk. No, I'm fine doing it, just, that's what we do in schools.
Yeah.
We don't have no money.
Yeah.
No money.
Mm-hmm.
Sponsors for that.
So anyway, so that's some of the outreach stuff that we've got going on right now. I'll just quickly go through this before I dive into the transportation. The group is also working, the multicultural group is working on a statement of diversity and inclusion that they want to present to the Commission on Aging. So it always has a good driving force behind it. So I'll bring that next month. You can talk about the equity committee that you and Donald are on. Something we're doing next week is Grace is doing a program in English and Spanish about their services through a Grace. The Spanish group is still meeting on Mondays. We're still trying to work with Newbridge to bring in some more programs.
Newbridge? I'm sorry.
Newbridge Madison has the cultural diversity outreach work coordinators, and they do a lot of programs for specifically Hispanic and Black people. So I'm meeting with them again next week. We did offer transportation to the farmers market. We put out flyers and we got nobody. So people can get vouchers if you meet the income requirements, you get $45 in vouchers to spend at any farmer's market. And this is through Dane County. And so we have a lot of folks that
That's
get
a nice chunk. You can get chicken, eggs, and maybe some bread.
Yeah, so we wanted to offer transportation because you can't get to the farmer's market. So this is today was the first day and nobody signed up. So we're gonna do another big push at the apartments, and I'm gonna try to get this. So we don't have the list of people's names that get vouchers, only Dane County does. And I'm gonna see if they would be willing to share that list so we can do a direct flyer to folks, or at least ask them to. So they do that, you call them, they mail the vouchers out. We don't really have anything to do with it. We can refer people there, but they have people that have gotten them over and over and over.
Maybe they could insert something with the voucher.
Yeah,
That would be probably asking a lot for them to remember to do that.
Possibly, but if
But
they
is
could
that
just,
for the Fitchburg Farmers Market or?
that's where we would transport.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. So we're gonna do it again. I got transit to
You
do
might
it
not be
from like.
aware of the Fitchburg Farmers Market.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just says transportation. If they would call, we could
Yeah.
at least tell them, but we've got a whole flyer made that says, Fitchburg's Farmers Market, but I think if we could get the names and we can do direct mailing to folks that got vouchers, that would be their best bet, so.
And the transportation, are you limited to from residences in Fitchburg to the farmer's market?
Yeah. Mhm.
Can't go raiding Madison or Verona or
Not yet.
No, we're not rating anybody.
But the residents of Fitchburg can use those vouchers for Madison.
They absolutely can,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I'm aware of some folks that
They can go anywhere,
they go, right.
any farmer's market they
Transportation.
want.
But they wouldn't get transportation.
Right,
Yeah, they would get transportation, but they, maybe go with someone else.
Oh,
They can
yeah.
have
They could go to
different ways of
anyone,
getting.
any day of the week.
Yeah, they can go anywhere, any day of the week. Any Dane County Farmers Market will accept those, so it's a great program. So I'm hoping, and maybe if we get feedback and people say, well, I'd rather go on well, I don't know if transit would do Saturday, but I'd rather go, somewhere else on this day, then we can,
Those vouchers work, you go to this stand and you buy a pint of strawberries for $2.
you mean, do you get cash back?
What do you do?
I don't know.
You
It's
just
probably like
show them
I
your
bet it's like
voucher
a
or what?
debit card,
Yeah, I think so, something
yeah.
Oh, like a debit card?
Yeah,
So
I
then
think
the
that's.
farmers markets would have to be set up
And
to-
most of them are.
Most of them are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
most of
those
them are.
vendors are,
Yeah.
that you can just.
Because it's easier for them too, as opposed
Absolutely.
to, I mean, the fee is there, but
Yeah.
they're not handling cash. so
Yeah.
much.
Okay, that's all I've ever done is cash.
Yeah, so, okay, all right. That's really it. Oh, and just a note, if you're not aware that the city is doing a pilot that closed at 2:00, and we're a part of that pilot now. So on Fridays, we close at 2, and the city hall is now open from 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday, and 8 to 2 on Fridays. And so this is a pilot, and they're gonna see how it goes, and then we'll see.
There's companies.
Your resource hours then for the week?
I'm sorry?
So instead of 5, it closes at 2 on Friday?
Yep, and we have to make up those hours throughout the week. So we
Gotcha.
work late, come in early.
But they're not
Oh, all right.
touching your
All
pay.
right.
It's not
No,
just
no,
use the
uh-uh.
hours.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't need as much going on. I mean, lights and electricity, I mean, all that kind of stuff, maybe they say.
I mean, I won't say, it's quiet. I mean, that's always been my favorite part of the day is Friday afternoons. It's quiet and you get a lot done. And so same with City Hall, it's usually pretty quiet Friday afternoon, so.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's been on the news worldwide. A lot of companies are doing that now
Right.
for a lot of different reasons, particularly the work at home thing. People are saying, well, why do we need to be in building?
Right,
We can, it's just there's a lot of reasons behind it, but yeah, it's
it's kind of
Nationwide,
worker
it's
retention now.
that's a piece of it.
That is-
That's a
yeah,
piece
that
of
is
it, and it may be
yeah.
particular for here or whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of different reasons, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works, particularly
Right.
here in the city. And,
Right.
particularly at, the city hall, what about your customers or your residents?
Right,
They say, look, I can only get there in the afternoon, but nobody's there, I don't know.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, Middleton Verona does it, and I think there's another couple of municipalities that are doing it, so yeah, we'll see.
How does that impact the senior center?
So we were okay, we moved Friday Fun Day from 1 to 3 to 12:30 to 2. And that was really it. Pickleball, we're just shutting down at 2 instead of 4. So we didn't really often program late into Friday because it was a nice time to get things done. So I'm looking forward to 2:00 this Friday and nobody's in there and I can just do my budget from 2 to 4. So we'll see.
Party.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of everything. I always encourage you to take a look at the newsletter. So transportation, save the best for last. So I did have a little bit of a delay getting that grant request into the city, just because things with my dad. But so I put that through. So any grant that you write for the city, you have to get the city's okay. And so I did that this week. And the mayor did come back with some concerns about the sustainability of the operating expenses. So just like this LTE position, if I'm able to fund it for a year, the city is not gonna commit to pick up those operating expenses the next year. And what does that mean to the city? What does that mean to me as a director? Is that saying that I then, myself, this position is mandated to raise funds for X number of years, to make sure that we can operate this bus? I mean, these are things I kind of shared before. I thought were going to be an issue because they've always been an issue. Looking at the grant, there's quite a bit to do before we can submit. Like, you have to go out to all of the private transportation companies and offer them the option, like, would they be willing to pick up providing you transportation versus you getting a grant and doing it on your own. You just have to have a letter of certification that you alerted all of these companies that you might be doing that. So that's one step. We have to have the certification letters for the local match. So we're looking at about $60,000 that needs to be raised in about 6 weeks because the grant is due on the 23rd. So I'm not sure where this is going to go. I don't know if the mayor is going to allow it. And I will say, as I've always said along, I don't know if I want to become a mobility manager. And I know that, everybody's like, well, we'll just do it. I mean, I can't even get an LTE, nutrition site manager. I won't be able to get an LTE bus drivers for a couple of years, for sure. I really want to look down the road of getting a bus and doing a shared ride taxi. And when I talked to a company called Running Inc., who is out of Arugua, has a fleet of 300 vehicles, been doing the business for 30 years. We can get the bus, like I said, that's the easy part. You lease it back to them, and they do everything. They hire the drivers, they do the scheduling, they do the maintenance, they park the bus. But you pay them a fee of about $50 an hour. But we can dictate those hours, and then, that is less work for us, and then people can use the shuttle for whatever. So yesterday or the day before, a lady who doesn't have transportation, I just want to go to the dollar store, So what does that mean for our bus? Like, I don't even have how we're going to use this bus. So when you put a grant forward, I have to have all those details organized and ready to go, or you look willy-nilly. And I'm not afraid of hard work, but I've got some things working against me. Like, I have other things to do. To whip out a grant and get letters of commitment for $60,000 in 6 weeks is a lot. And I'm not going to go in there without a nice marketing materials and a plan, because I want to say, this is what your money will get you, or this is a pilot. But also, too, we still need to consider the next year, if the city's not going to pick up operating, are you then saying to this position, you therefore need to continue to fundraise for operating until the city takes this on?
It doesn't sound like this is an option for us right now.
Well, I know I've expressed concern before, and I don't want to come across, I've been trying to fight for transportation for a long time, and I got really close a couple years ago when the city was looking at an intercity shuttle. And then we lost our transportation engineers. And that's why that $80,000 was put in the budget. It was to purchase a bus. But again, purchasing the bus is the easy part. Operating it is not the easiest part. So I'm just sharing this because I don't know if the mayor's going to even approve me writing the grant, because that was her response back to me, which again, I'm not surprised. They didn't like that I was putting in the nutrition site LTE. They're not going to like that I'm going to buy a bus and fundraise for operating and then ask the city to do it the next year and the next year. But if they're not going to commit to something, to some kind of plan, I don't think that it's reasonable to say to me or whomever has this position, from here on out, you need to fundraise for operating.
So can I ask a question?
Yep.
What I'm hearing you saying, that wonder if the mayor is going to approve. We had a discussion, and you said the mayor said she did approve you completing this grant.
She did, but then when I went back to say, now we're officially going to put this through, she said, I'm having some concerns about the operating.
Details and all
No,
that.
right. That if I am not asked to fundraise for operating for years to come.
Okay.
is
So
the city gonna
essentially-
be able to put this in their budget?
So essentially, she's saying, we need to change your job description?
Or whoever, but I mean, again, you know,
At a point to a full-time staff member to do that, I think.
I just, somebody's, I mean, you know, again, if this is going to turn into more of a fundraising sort of, you know, fundraising position, like why aren't you getting, you know, things like, you know, why don't you get sponsors, you know, why don't we get sponsors? I can spend more time doing that, but I need, no, I think this is part of the growth of this department, you know, so then give me a 20-hour activity assistant, because should I be programming? No, but I still am, because Dave's doing, you know, I'm looking at other centers have marketing people, they have, you know, Dave's doing the newsletter, he's doing the marketing, he's doing the recruiting for newsletter ads, he's doing all the programming with help from me, but we're all doing a lot of jobs. So if this is going to, if I'm gonna be asked, or this is going to be written into a position that we want you to do more fund development, which I think is a legit thing, something's gotta give somewhere else. So maybe it's, we don't do as many programs, you know what I mean? But if you get a bus, you know what you wanna do is you wanna have more programs, so you can, you know, be more to everybody.
Otherwise, defeat the whole point of.
Well, right, and so, you know, but I think we can get more volunteers, but, so anyway.
Does the city have any sort of a philosophy or statement of support towards improving transportation? And so where does the bus fall into that
That was my question back to the mayor. The city has a sustainability plan, and there is a part in there for transportation about, we want less people to have to drive, we wanna be able to move. You know, if we want a livable city, you know, and I know that I've talked before, like, I know I shouldn't care about the rest of the city, but this is a big issue, and if we invest in transportation and it can serve more people, I think we're gonna have more city support. But should I be driving that for the city? No, it's not really my role. I can only really focus on older adults.
Shouldn't the city, because of that, support your part of it?
Right.
I mean, it should,
Right,
it
but
should be.
for me to come to them right now, like, I don't know if they will. If I say, all right, what's this, you know, if I'm gonna do this, can I have a commitment from the city for 26 and on?
Right.
And if I don't, then this position there says, okay, you need to continue to fundraise.
So could an intern or some other cheaper employee take on the activity planning and remove that so that you would have time for fundraising?
I mean, interns are,
Hard to find.
well, I mean, I don't know about a
Spend a
programming,
lot
they
of time
have,
supervising too.
yeah, I mean, we've had interns, and I've even had a program intern from MATC, you know. But I feel like I don't have a plan. Like, I think all of these are great ideas, and I know you've heard me express concerns all along, and by directing me to do this, I can do it if the mayor lets me write the grant. I don't know if it is the right time. I think we could take this year and make a plan.
Right.
Like, and look at some other things. Again, like if I know I shouldn't care if I have a 14-passenger bus out there, but somebody wants to go to the dollar store, but we just wanna bring them to Nails and Lunch and Learn, and it's only 3 or 4 people. When I was sitting at the outreach event yesterday, or the other night, I was with, sitting next to the library who has their own van. You know, it's wheelchair accessible. But then I was like, maybe we relook at this. Maybe we get a smaller van that can run small trips and run 2 or 3 people around. It's more cost effective. But again, I got 6 weeks. This is due on the 23rd.
It's not doable.
Yeah, the clock is against you.
The clock is against me.
And there's a lot of other things that you don't do that other people have to do for you, so you can send it in. Like the mayor has to approve it.
Well, that's the one.
You gotta get the letters from
you know,
vendors.
Right, I gotta get letters, I gotta commitments, I gotta send out stuff. And again, you know, is it doable? You know, probably. But if the city's not gonna pick up the operating the next year,
That's even.
is that then back on me or my staff? And then if my staff, if this blows up and Susie's pretty much spending 50% of her time being a mobility manager because, you know, just with the bus folks that come for lunch, it's,
Oh my gosh.
you didn't pick me up, where are they? They're late, they're not here. There's a lot that goes into this, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm not willing to work hard and do this, but if we don't do it the right way, I feel like it's gonna fail. It's not gonna be.
Question.
I personally think, and this
I
is,
know.
and we've gone back and forth and, you know, a couple of meetings. It sounds to me we need to table this because every other meeting we've had over the last 3, it's on, you know, and we're excited, and then it's kind of, this, like that. So it sounds to me we need to table this and perhaps not go forward this time around. That's just my sense in terms of some of the conversations that we've been having and hearing you, particularly today.
Yeah, 6 weeks is not a lot of time for this.
It's just not, and even if I put it through even if my, you know, I didn't have a family issue, I feel like this is a really important thing, and I wanna do it right, and I wanna make sure, you know, I'd love to have Running Inc. come in and talk to you guys, so you understand what that shuttle looks like. I've always pushed that, because we're not paying for staffing, we're not doing that, you know, but if I'm out there fundraising, then I'm not gonna keep fundraising for other things and ask businesses for this and that. And so, you know, what I'd like to look at is, you know, as the center grows and then my position, you know, sort of like, what are the things that maybe I need to take off my plate? And I've been working on that, and Janice has, you know, been really helpful in terms of identifying, like, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. But then as you push these jobs onto other people, that they're capable of that, and then they're not saying like, well, wait a minute, when I started, I didn't have X number of duties, and now I have all of these other duties. You know, do I get a pay raise? Well, no, you don't, because, you know, that's just not how it works here. You just do more, unless you're really having, you know, a trainable skill, are you gonna go through to get a pay raise?
Does
Our
this grant
classes.
money go away? I mean, what?
There's an opportunity to, operating, I mean, the vehicle, again, is a one-time.
Right, but I
That's-
mean, I thought this was part of the infrastructure bill or part of,
No, the 5310 is different.
okay.
Yeah, this is always available,
All right.
but Ben,
So
who I
you're
work
not
with,
missing an opportunity by not doing it now.
no, so the money that's funneled from federal to state goes to the Madison Area Planning Organization, and I've known Ben from that agency for a while because I visited this grant so often. I said, well, can you apply for operating every year? And he said, you can, but there's no guarantees that, you know, we're not gonna sustain that. You know, so again, tabling it to me means we develop a better plan. This is something I'm oftentimes like, let's just do it and work it out. But something like this seems different to me. I don't think I can wing it and then see where the city lies. It's a hard year with the referendum and all the other things that are coming on the city's plate that I have no control over. Will this rise to the top? No. But I'd like to see how we can make this a part of the sustainability plan of the city. The larger,
Right.
you know, and the larger plan, again, it always goes back to Madison Metro. But that's not gonna serve our needs. It's gonna help if we can get the metro route up and down Sherrill, the regular route, so that we have Metro Plus that will serve everything this way and then a half a mile this way.
Oh,
If you
that's how it
qualify
works.
for Metro Plus. So that's, you know, that's something, but is it gonna be soon enough? Maybe not. I don't know where that's at, and that depends on the referendum too. So there's just a lot of up in the airs, but
I think that,
So maybe the feedback to you today is just a carrying forward the idea of tabling, but maybe changing the language around that a bit, that we not table it like taking it off the table, but rather using this next period of time to further develop and define the proposal going forward for the
Right.
coming years.
It becomes a parking lot item.
Yeah,
It's a part of that, entabling,
With active
same thing, yeah.
attention and work and development.
Because I wanna, you know, Verona recently, Epic gave them a van. It doesn't have a wheelchair lift, but I'd be really curious to see what they're doing with that van. And not that that's gonna meet our needs right away, but, you know, I don't, you know, build it and they'll come, or do we start small and grow it? You know, again, I still would like to be able to transport people to the dollar store when they wanna go, or to Walgreens to get their prescription. Like, a lot of that is not possible right now. So there's those needs, there's being able to expand programming and get more people to the center. I will say Julia, you know, she's the first mayor that ever put money into a budget for transportation for our budget. I have 7,200 and I'm not using it well, and that's making me nervous, you know? So, you know, we need to do better outreach to make sure people know they can go to the farmer's market. You know, Friday Fun Day we were able to do, and I think we transported 6 or 7 home. We wanna do more special events like that. So I will have that money next year to continue to play with, and maybe that then will help us give some data. But I feel, you know, a little, I don't want to say guilty, but that I'm not using that money better, you know? And I don't even have time because we need to develop more programs and we need to get the word out that there is some transportation available, but then I have to go back to transit to say, are you available? So there's a lot of logistics around transportation, which is why I keep going back to shared ride taxi. You know what, that person calls and said, I want to go to exercise at the senior center today. I want to stay late for lunch and learn. I want to go to Walgreens. Boom, it's all done. We can pre-purchase punch cards and give them to folks that are low income so there's no money exchange, they just use their punches. But, you know, for something like this, we would have to develop, are we gonna charge a fare? Are we not gonna charge a fare? There's a lot of stuff we need to flush out. And we're close, I mean, again, I was close with the city, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So if we're gonna go back to it just being a senior center, I need a long-term sustainable plan. Because I don't wanna be revisiting and panicking next year when the city said, we're still not willing to fund this, you haven't proven the need or whatever, and then I'm stuck raising more money, getting more businesses on board. I don't know, that's where I
Understand. Do I hear,
Oh, Jerry's got one quick
Jerry has a
question.
question.
Joe, regarding that budget you do have for transportation, is that a matter of you're not likely to get reimbursed, get renewed for that unless you spend all of the money you have, you know, whether
I don't know.
you use it or lose it?
I'm gonna put it, I mean, we still have 6 months to spend it, you know? 7,200 is not anything, you know? Right. But again, you know, that therein lies that most of the transportation providers are more available after like 1:30, you know? But again, I think I can do better using that, but we need better promotion of it, and it takes a while to get people used to, like, oh yeah, you can come to foot care, you know? But that's one person, so I'm paying, you know, transit $95 an hour for one person. Or then we just make more programs, which is good, and then we just shuttle a whole bunch of people for just certain particular programs.
Is there any reference to that in the newsletter? That transportation is available, could be available?
No, not yet.
To-
Because again, I'm not sure if, like, do we want to transport 1 or 2 people for $95? Or maybe I use that money just for cabs. Like, I still haven't even wrapped my brain around, you know, that
Well, if
I.
you're doing outreach at these various facilities, maybe bring, instead of going there for your ambassador program, send a bus over there and bring them all over here. You could bring several and make it maybe not so much a free lunch, but, you know, like an afternoon tea party or, you know.
Well, that was the Friday Fun Day that we're trying to still ramp up some interest. And, you know, we got a couple new people from the outside, but not enough, you know.
But bringing them to the center.
Correct, right,
So
yeah,
that would use your $7,200.
right,
So
right.
it'd be a way to
Mhm.
attract people and also maybe adding something about transportation to all the program descriptions.
Right, but I have to be certain that I have transit lined up to provide that, and they won't they only have limited hours. So I could go to cabs, that's a little bit easier, but it's more
I
expensive.
was gonna say, those are very,
Right.
starting to be very expensive.
Right. So that's the thing, is I can't willy-nilly say, you know, I have to get the pre-approval from transit, just like the farmer's market. I was like, do you think you can do this from 4 to 5:30? And that's an easy time for them, and they're fine with that. But now we just have to get people to ride the bus, you know? And I guess it's a great thing. And
I'll
so
park my
we need
car
to do
over
better
here.
outreach to the folks that don't know we're here. And to say, listen, we have this transportation.
And to your comment, Barbara, I think when we talk about outreach in general, I think that I do think that idea is great to just bring them here. But I think you'll find sometimes people of color would rather have a personal connection. So if I talk to her about it, and then, you know,
Right.
that's a different story. Kind of like Janice book. I mean, the first time she saw me here, and I said, "Oh, I'm just visiting. Visiting? We got jobs for you."
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, it's more of a personal
I know.
connection to grow it, so that's where I'm at.
So,
Not much.
was there a motion to table the purchase of?
I motion to table the purchase and add
on
other
a more
options.
definitive plan for transportation.
With the
You
timeline.
say postpone instead of table, I don't like table.
Okay, postpone.
I'd like postpone if we're gonna give a date. If we're just gonna have it blooming out. I mean, I know we'll talk about it, but I mean, are we gonna get this done the next year? If we don't put a
Yeah.
stop time on it, it could just never get done.
Right.
And I want, even if it's not next year, because all whatever's going on, I want us, if we decided, I want that, what is this, 24, 23, 24, 20? I wanted 25 for her to have everything she needs, but, you know, updated lawyer's statement, or, I mean, a mayor's statement or whatever.
What about, I mean, you know, would you be open to sort of an ad hoc committee? Because I feel like we can't just work at it at these meetings. There's so much to flush out. We can bring presenters and stuff, but there's a lot to flush out.
I don't think
You
we need
think
an
so?
ad hoc. I think this is ad hoc. Yeah.
Right.
I think this is an ad hoc, and we just need to focus on when we're gonna do the timing, and that becomes the topic, and these are the things that we need to cover, you know, as
Or
it
maybe
relates
we
to
have to meet
transportation, yeah.
a third time every 2 months or something, just on this.
So for the next meeting then, because I feel like this should always be on the agenda.
Yeah. And I agree with that, and it's specific, you know, specifically, what are we gonna talk about relating to this transportation issue?
Right.
Correct, like, and maybe even each of those steps along the way, start with the letters to the other bus companies, so that those could be prepared and ready to go, reviewed and, you know, agreed upon, so that each of those steps that have to be completed by next August would already be
Yeah.
prepared.
Right.
And so just take it like maybe sequentially through that whole process.
Well, and I think also too, having, you know, a discussion with the mayor.
Right.
About this, you know,
Well, we could write talking points.
even if they were saying, all right, we commit to 2 years, you fundraise for 2 years, we'll pick up those operating in the third. Like, you know,
A plan,
a plan, and a plan that incorporates this into a city.
right.
You know, because I am, you know, it's not Newbridge or even Colonial Club, those are both their own nonprofits. They can do whatever they want with their board. But whatever I do impacts the city, you know.
But if we started with talking points for the mayor, the letter, each of those steps that you have to go through to gain approval to finally write and present so if at each meeting we would discuss one of those steps or approve one of those steps, so that by August, it's all been, it's done.
Yeah.
You know, I'd set a
And that, I mean,
deadline
12
of
months is
July to
nothing,
have
right.
completed each of those. And maybe next time, what you would give us is an outline of what we're gonna do in the next year or something, so that we are sure that we've covered all of the action items that need to be undertaken in order to have a complete grant written.
Yeah, a list of action items. It definitely, there is a whole list of action items.
There's
and
a
so-
lot of action
Yeah.
items, okay.
I think there was a
identifying all those action items and when to do them is the plan. Right?
It will
sorry,
be,
can you
right,
say
it'll be our
it again?
guiding plan.
Is the plan that we're planning.
Well, but we have to know that we're gonna have talking points for the mayor, so that's one action item, but then writing the talking points would be something that we would take up at a future meeting, right?
Right,
First, we have to have an outline of what we're gonna do,
right.
and then we need each of those steps completed.
And that would come pretty quickly because, you know, the grant, I think the grant came out 2 months ago, so it's right when the grant comes out that we start advocating. I mean, actually, see, we're already
Well,
doing
we wanna have all that
2025.
ready to go
So,
when
yeah, we
it
wanna have
comes
all
out.
that ready to go because then we want that advocacy to come into the city budget cycle too. But the talking points to,
Well,
yeah, anyway.
it
I'll-
seems to
I
me
gotta push- I
a
gotta
logical
find it.
flow because you have to, that would at least set your expectation or your goals
Yeah.
for the whole grant.
Right.
But, because you have to present that to the mayor, and so either that or do it at the end after you've done all these other steps
Right.
and.
And we gotta flesh
present it
out
into-
yeah, the cost. So now I have some more time to, you know, because I was looking at the cost that they threw out and I was like, that didn't add up, some of those expenses. Like I really want to know what it's going to cost, you know? So we pay a driver 14, they're LTEs, but there's also a cost, there's more cost to the city because they pay into Social Security, you know what I mean? Like I don't, that 40,000, that's not a real cost. I bet it's closer to 50 or 60 if you have 2 part-time bus drivers. But what we can decide is, do we want to start with 2 part-time bus drivers or 1? So there's those details we still need to flesh out. Maybe we don't do as many hours right away and then we expand the next year. So those are details that need to be fleshed out before we even move towards what are we asking for. Again, we can ask for a bus, that's easy. And a lot of funders are gonna like to put their name on a bus, you know, but the operating, people don't want to pay for operating. They just don't. I mean, it's not a fun, you know, flashy, what do I get for it? But a bus, yeah, I got my name on that bus, or that's tangible, and that's a
So there's a
one-time.
motion on the table.
Yeah.
And
No,
before-
I said, do we hear a motion? We didn't.
Vaughn started to make one,
Right,
so.
So we don't really have a motion on the table. A follow-up question to that, did we have, was there a previous mandate to you to do
No.
anything? What if, do we need a motion?
Well, well, yeah, you guys did,
Yeah,
you did
no,
mandate me to,
motion to buy it, to
to fill
pursue
out the
buying a
grant.
bus by doing,
Okay.
writing
to
the
apply for
grant.
the
So at
grant,
a
right?
previous
That's
meeting,
what
we did
yes.
do.
Apply
So
for
we
the
need
grant.
to
For
amend
capital and
that.
operating, yes.
Well, we can amend it to write the grant for August of 2025 instead of August of 2024.
Versus a.
And is that what the
motion. Yeah. Versus a
Yeah,
new
oh, I like
motion.
Well, does that take off,
Yeah.
I guess my concern with that is, I still wanna see the other options, like she talked about the
Yeah, but that would be in our
Cabby thing.
action plan.
But that doesn't have to be a motion.
Yeah.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't, but if, to say we're gonna apply for the bus, when, after we hear all these people, we may decide that other plan is better.
Well, we said we were gonna apply for the grant.
Yeah, we'll still need to buy a bus for that other plan, you just lease it back to them.
Okay,
I think,
Okay.
didn't we say
I
it
don't
was a
think I understood
grant?
that
We
part.
have, the motion was made then at our June 13, motion made by Ashby to direct Senior Center Director to proceed in an effort to apply for funding to cover capital and operating expenses for Senior Center bus.
It doesn't say when.
Doesn't say when?
It does
So-
not,
So we don't have to amend it because
So we're okay?
because we
Yeah,
did
it's-
a really good job with our first one.
being vague.
Yay!
Great.
So you're headed in the right direction.
Okay.
I just want to share with you, at our Tuesday men's group meeting, I brought up the transportation issue. And there were a lot of very interesting ideas that were flying around about good usage of a bus and all this stuff. But one of the things that stood out to me, and I'm not volunteering for it, one of the things well, I could volunteer for it, but Bill Horn's brought up the point that he was concerned that the senior center does not have a presence at all of the commission, all of the city council meetings. And then he shared about how Fitchburg had a bicycle group that wanted to improve bicycling in town. And that ballooned, and they went to every council meeting and yelled and screamed and had their points and et cetera about how wonderful bicycles are, and pushed and pushed and pushed every single meeting. And look what we have now. We have a fantastic bicycle system, transportation system in Fitchburg. But it's because of the high pressure tactics, the lobbying, the advocacy at every meeting. And I would agree. I've gone to a couple of meetings with you, and
I've gone with her.
And yeah, and some of us have. But the continuous pressure is a good point. You know, the old squeaky wheel. And maybe the council would get the idea that seniors are important in the world. And we need to pay money to help seniors live well.
Because seniors are paying taxes in this community too.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
So, you know, if it would be interesting to get a commission advocacy member on the council, on
The Transit and Transportation Commission.
well, it's
Which
not
Bill was
not
on.
just transportation, it's everything regarding the senior center, everything.
But that's why we have a council liaison.
Well, yeah, but what does he do? He didn't ever show up.
Well,
The last forum.
Well, the last one,
Yeah.
yeah, the last one, yeah.
What's the importance of having a council advocate? Someone who's going to
So,
take
and
that
I-
message to the full council.
I think it all boils down to what are we asking for? And I know I keep throwing wrenches in this, you know, because I think there's a consensus of like, let's just get a bus and let's just we'll just use a bus, and then, but how are we gonna use it? And if I had you know, at this point in time, I can say we want 2 drivers, we want to run that bus 40 hours a week, and then I figure out the cost, and then that's what we're asking for the city to pick up.
But here's another way of thinking of those meetings. So, and this is coming from our union days, it's not so much everybody's got to go to every meeting and say something.
No, right,
It's simply, oh, look, Paul and Jim are here. Oh, look, Vance and
Right.
senior representative is
Right.
here. You know, every month they meet, they're seeing somebody from the commission. It's like, oh, okay, something's coming up or something. But at least they know that we know we're watching them.
right.
And we are interested in what's going on in our city, and we want to have more of a say.
But
So then come
right.
May, June, July, we all go to meetings
Right.
and start talking about, or April, May, June, July.
But again, what are we asking for?
But
What are we
but initially it's just support, it's just them seeing us. That's what I meant by
But the
that.
reality is, this transportation conversation is everywhere. I mean, it's absolutely everywhere. I mean, it's a strategic plan right now. I'm on the DEI council for the mayor. Not just last night, I was here, and that's part of the conversation. Transportation conversations are everywhere, and it's a big issue here. So I'm not, you know, discounting what you're saying. That may work, but I think it's such a broad conversation that it's difficult for them to focus just on the senior center. And I think that's one of the things that we're bouncing up against. I don't know.
That's what I've always bounced up against, and I think, again, because there's not, you know, we're looking at a sustainability plan, and that's why I always kind of backpedal towards, let's look at a broader system that serves the greater whole, you know, all of the folks here, because then we can tie that into a city plan that's very sustainable and long-term, versus going rogue and me just getting a bus and trying to figure out how to manage it on my own, and then wanting the city to pay for it, and then the community saying, well, wait a minute, I remember about when I asked for that part-time social worker, well, why do you get a social worker for older adults? There's no, city doesn't pay for social workers for kids. So that's why I was like, if we can get more support from different ages and a good plan that works within the city's bigger picture.
Again, it's a community center, not a senior center, so if the bus were to provide, really, the city should be looking at transportation to this campus. Not just not the library, and not the senior center, and not to pay your utility bill or something. It should be to the campus.
Right.
But as I say that, I still am a proponent about the seniors, I really am.
No, I know.
Yeah, definitely, so.
But you can see the
Yeah.
challenge is how it gets stuck down because it doesn't.
But it is such a large conversation, and it's everywhere, I mean.
It's everywhere, and it has been for years.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Arnold, years ago when he was the mayor, he had the Fitchburg flyer, he had a whole system, and that didn't go. I mean, this is not a new conversation, and I don't disagree, we can be at more meetings, but when somebody says, what do you want, we need to decide.
You gotta.
I gotta decide.
I want
Yeah.
to make sure that my voice is heard, and I
Yeah.
happen to be somebody who's a senior.
Yeah, but do you want a shuttle that just brings you to the senior
No,
center for
that- at
programs,
that
or do you
point,
want one that moves you around the city?
Between now and
you know?
June, I'll be saying,
We'll be flushing
I'm
that
just a
out.
senior
Mhm.
and want to know what's going on in my community.
Yeah, but I do think if we had more representation in some of these
I do.
larger city discussions, again, you've got the sustainability plan, we've got the metro plan going on, that
What would
will,
that
that
look
will
like,
help
though?
us.
But back to
Depends
what-
after the referendum,
back to
I
our-
think.
Original thing of, we don't need a new motion.
Yeah. Every meeting from here on out will be about
We have
transportation.
decided to postpone it and add it as an agenda item.
Yes,
Yeah,
keep
it
it
should
as an
always be an
agenda
agenda
item.
item.
And I'll come back with action,
And then decide from there where to go.
yes,
And
that feels comfortable to
And
me.
maybe as part of that action item, consider how we can get more visibility with the city council.
Yes, and that'll be
Because
part of
that
the
will
action
lead to-
plans as well, right?
That would lead to discussions with the mayor.
Yeah.
Because if she feels that pressure from the council,
Right, but
she
again,
or he
mayors
may-
come and go, we gotta get something that's part of a large comprehensive plan. That's a priority, because another mayor comes in and this is the first mayor that put transportation as a priority in
But
our
then-
budget.
But if the council backs it
Mhm.
as well, it's kind of a combination of the
Yeah,
two.
but I'd love to see it in some sort of long-term action plan that is in the city's comprehensive plan or sustainability plan, that's a piece of it too. So then it can't just be subject to whomever's on the council or,
Exactly. Or you
the
start
priorities,
from
'cause the
zero
priorities
every time you change the mayor.
I mean,
You
you're
have
right,
to
I mean,
use those $7,200.
what's that?
You have to use them, truly.
No, right,
I mean,
right,
and not to, that the notion
No,
of
right.
using it or losing it,
right,
if you don't
Right.
use those dollars
Right.
this year,
absolutely.
it compromises what we'll do in the future.
Right.
and you're right, the mayor, they come and go, but so does our council person who sits on, so
Right,
Yeah.
we've gotta get support from who sits on this commission as well.
Yeah.
right.
Do we have any input in who sits on the commission?
It's the mayor's choice.
I mean, do we-
whoever-
On this commission?
No,
No.
no.
City council.
No, I know that.
Oh,
But
no,
which-
not this one, no. I mean, you certainly can recommend people to put out, to apply to serve
No,
on
no,
this
no, I
commission.
mean, which council member is our advocate on?
Sometimes, depends on the mayor.
So, that might be something to consider.
So, right, for now, you need to go back to the mayor and saying we're putting a pause on this,
Yes.
but you have to be careful on what you say, because you don't want to make it look like you're giving up.
No, and again, the mayor wants to do transportation. I truly believe in her efforts, and it is an overwhelming, initiative
It's
to
huge.
solve everybody's needs, not just the seniors. So I do believe in her sincerity of trying to do more, and for seniors too. But, you know, I agree, like, you haven't heard the last of us.
Right.
And city council needs to know that too.
Yep.
Like, we're not done,
Make sure they know that.
right, but the plan that we're going to put forward, I want to make it clear that this is going to be a plan that the city then supports. That whomever is the senior center director is not fundraising for transportation from here on out. That this is part of a bigger picture, and that if the city can give us a commitment in 1 or 2 or 3 years, you know, something that says, yeah, then this feels right.
Those are your talking points.
But if the city would would actually address the issue and provide citywide transportation, we wouldn't have to worry about transportation.
Exactly.
Because it would come from everywhere right here.
It should be this responsibility of this city to provide public transportation throughout the city. It's as simple as any town in the universe is. And why they can't do that is beyond me.
Whenever you can go to meetings and say that.
That's the question.
Yeah, and
No, it's a
again,
matter of money.
you know,
You know,
it
it's a
is
matter of money.
a lot of money,
So that's why they're
right,
floating the referendum.
right, and that's part of the referendum
Well,
too. But
unfortunately,
again,
the referendum, transportation didn't come up very high on a referendum.
Right, yeah.
But the questions,
Or on the survey, rather.
yeah,
Skewed.
you look at that, yeah, the demographics of where it went, they didn't, yeah. You just look at the demographics and you'll see, I'm almost positive the majority were homeowners.
Oh, yeah.
Or people who have cars, shouldn't say home, people who have cars in
That's
general.
funny. There was a discussion last night in the DEI council that the demographics, when they sent the surveys out, who responded?
since you're on that topic, can you share what that
Oh,
committee is
the
about?
DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're taking a look at it for citywide. And,
Right,
you know, given the fact that this population and demographics has changed so much, the mayor pulled together individuals to be on this council to take a look at the city, what's going on in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, policies, practices, procedures, etc. So we just had our second meeting last night.
The transportation would be on it.
Transportation is on there, definitely, and there's a lot on there, quite frankly, but transportation definitely is one that's on there. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, but in terms of your comment in this survey, who responded, you know, they were saying, look at the demographics of who responded to those surveys, you know, homeowners and
sometimes it's hard to, you know, in my experience, it's hard to rely on surveys.
yeah,
And that's
I
why.
feel like there's just an innate knowledge, like, I mean, I know that, you know, I don't know everything, but I sure know a lot about older adults in Fitchburg and what their needs are. I don't need a survey, you know what I mean? But oftentimes to get funding, you need the data. You need the data, you need the surveys, but oftentimes, and I've said this a million times, those that need the most can't speak for themselves or don't, for whatever reason. And, you know, it's our job as department heads to represent those that aren't represented, and that might not be done by a survey. It's just done by experience and by, you just know what the needs are.
Yeah, and or the method by which you obtain information, you know, it may not.
Just hearing it.
Yeah, no,
Just
yeah.
And even the questions themselves, the way they're worded and.
The way it's worded, you make, for example, part of that survey, they sent postcards out to people saying, and there's a QR code on it, and specific segments of the city, those folks are not going to respond to that.
Right.
They're not so-
Trash.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't, you know, whether it's young, whether it's, you know, black and brown people, whomever, you're missing a whole segment of people based on how you go out, you know, to obtain information. So, yeah, there's just a lot we're taking a look at and see
Right,
how
there's
do
a
we
lot,
get better.
you know,
Yeah.
there's just a lot we don't know.
Yeah,
When
there's
I
a lot
was
of history. Yeah.
talking to Jesus, and we were just talking about communication, and Minda, the outreach librarian, she knows some
Yeah.
Spanish. You know, she and Jesus were saying Hispanic folks use WhatsApp. They don't text really, because WhatsApp is free. You don't use your data at all, and that is the primary way that a lot of Hispanic folks communicate with each other, and that we can look at. I mean, you know, the social workers have cell phones that they're communicating through WhatsApp with our Hispanic older adults versus trying to text or call. And so, those are, I didn't know that, and that, and hopefully this committee you're on, Janice, those are really good things to identify. That we need to just broaden the way we look at things and market. And this came about a long time ago in our strategic plan that you guys were on, I think, that larger one. How do we communicate with different audiences, So anyway, this was a good meeting. I appreciate your support and understanding. And again, it's not that I'm not willing to work hard. I just want to work smart. And this was not feeling like a good time right now for this. I think we got some stuff to flush out. And I think we'll be more successful with a plan that we have time to really hone in on and have the support of the whole commission.
Okay,
So I would just encourage and invite everyone to go to commission meetings. If you don't want to go
Council
by council
meetings?
meetings. Council meetings. If you don't want to go by myself,
John's
give me a
away from
buzz.
council meetings.
Do we have an phone list of everybody on the committee?
We
The
don't,
commission, the council?
the commission.
Commission, I keep calling these the
Oh.
wrong things.
It's email, but if you all want to share your phone numbers, that's up to you.
No, say it again, it's email.
Yeah, I have an email list.
Did you send it to us?
When we get the
Blind,
agenda,
yeah. Oftentimes
That's
I,
not be blind copied?
it is a blind copy.
Yeah, so that wouldn't help.
If everybody's comfortable, I can share everybody's.
No, I
email.
just-
I generally don't unless people are comfortable.
That's fine.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say was that I would be willing to go with anyone who wants to go to a commission meeting. Cause they actually
You
are.
mean
interested.
council.
Council meeting. We
So
are
I
the
think if there's
commission.
something pertinent on the agenda, but yeah, for sure.
I think they're interested.
All right.
Sometimes I learn way too much about the city.
Do most of us go to council meetings generally?
I've been to some of them. The
Only
problem
if
with
there's
the council
something
meetings is,
significant on the
I'm
agenda.
a senior, and seniors go to bed early, and council meetings go to like midnight.
Mhm.
I haven't been for a while. That's, that was a library. There was a lot of advocacy for the library.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot
And
of
we did a
people-
lot when we did the addition. I mean,
Yes,
when there's
yes.
certain really things to advocate for, like the transportation, then we started having more of a presence, so.
Yeah, you just reminded us when the meetings were.
Absolutely.
Didn't think of that.
When's the next one, do you know?
They're always the second and fourth Tuesday at 7:30.
Thank you. Council, right?
Council, yeah. Okay, all right.
And we just have to bring Donald up to speed and.
Right.
Yeah.
And have him speak on behalf of,
Right.
Okay, if there are no announcements, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
second.
All in favor? Okay,
That was
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good.